So the time being 6:31, I will call the meeting of the Stoughton Housing Authority of April 16th, 2024 to order. The first item of business is the roll call of the members. Bill?
Yes.
Donald?
Yes.
And Chairman Barry Crimmins is also here. We are expecting George Hanson to join us momentarily, but in the interest of time, we will kick things off and get started. The next item is the consent agenda, consisting of the board meeting minutes, the vacancy report, and the overtime report. Are there any items that anybody wants to pull or that they have any questions on? Either the minutes.
The only thing that I would update is that Silver House is fully leased. I
It
know
is.
that's one that we were trying to get off, well, fully spoken for. Am I correct, Vicky?
It's fully occupied, 100% occupied now.
Yeah.
That's great news.
So
Congratulations to all of you.
Some good teamwork with Pace, but it's good to have that fully leased.
Absolutely. It's been a long time since that's been the case. So that's great to hear. It's great to hear. And everyone's playing well and getting along for the most
You know,
part.
that's another story.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of them are, but
All right. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. That's great news. I'm glad to hear that. I did want to. I apologize. I'm trying to, get to this point of being not paperless, because that will never happen. But to stop having to print everything, including the agenda items. So out of that percentage, that's not, I think you gave a reverse percentage there, correct? Where it says 4%. Oh, that's the vacancies. 4%. I apologize.
Overall vacancies, yeah, but we're actually doing better than that.
Yeah. Of the 269 units, we have 258 are occupied, according to this report.
This doesn't show that Silver House is completely occupied.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
And I don't know, Vicky, if there's any others that we leased, but it's probably a little.
And even the ones that are, Colleen, it looks like there's no more than one or two vacancies in any one development. So that's also great news.
Yes. Yep.
So,
and the 705s, we were probably going to hold off on filling those as we move towards, a new project for those.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's see what we need to do. All right. Does anybody have anything on anything? Bill?
No.
Donald?
Nope.
Anything? Nope.
On
Everyone's
those
good?
three.
All right. Then I will entertain a motion to approve items A, B, and C on the consent agenda. Somebody care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Bill. Is there a second? Seconded by
Second.
Donald. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call of the members. Bill?
Yes.
Donald?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. That is unanimous. Get used to that routine, because I think that's the way most of the night is going to go.
Yeah.
Let me see. So Colleen, Jim is here for item, which is it, the budget 5A?
That would be correct.
He's not here for the items 3, the accounting, right? The bill schedule or the financial report, right?
That's right.
All right, then I would like to I'd like to entertain a motion, I should say, that we table items 3 and 4, the accounting and the executive director's report, and go to item 5A, so we can hear from Jim, and then we can cut him loose. So somebody care to make that motion to table those 2 items?
Motion to table.
Motion by Donald, seconded by Bill. Any discussion? Hearing none. Once again, I'll take a roll call of the members. Bill?
Yes.
Donald?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we've tabled items 3 and 4. We'll go to item 5A, the budget. Colleen, I don't know if you have any introductory remarks that you care to make before we turn the podium over to Jim?
Actually do. So let me just a little bit of background. So we are obviously changing over our fiscal year. So Stoughton is a 6/30 or 7/1, however I want to say that, right? 7/1 fiscal year. We had requested from the state and from HUD to change that to a 12/31 year end. So what that meant is we did a budget from July 1 of last year through to 12/31. Now we're going to do a budget. This is where James maybe can jump in, which I don't think has changed much. That's going to go now from January 1 through to 12/31 of 2024. And then we will be back on track for a 12/31 fiscal year end. So that's why you've done a few budgets.
Well, our current fiscal year is still ending on June 30th.
It will
No,
not anymore. Nope. You've already been, so you've gotten approval to be changed to.
Oh,
to
okay. I'm sorry.
31. So this budget here is a full year budget.
Okay.
Budget James did at the end of, in the middle of 2023 was just a 6-month budget.
6 months, right?
And this
Okay.
should show a full 12-month budget.
Great.
Go ahead,
Great.
James. Jason.
Great. My apologies.
Look-
James, the floor is yours.
Just quickly,
Thank
so I can
you.
verify that it's 1/24 to 12/24, correct?
correct.
All right.
The budget
Well,
the board
what-
approved back, the budget the board approved back in October or November, you'd have to check the minutes, ran from July 1 of 2023 through 12/31/2023.
Okay.
The budget that we are asking the board to approve tonight will run from 1/1/2024 through December 31st, 2024. In essence, moving your fiscal year end from a June 30th date to a 12/31.
Yep.
EOHLC has already approved that change. Colleen sent me over an email the other day that HUD has also approved that change. So we are good to go, and that's why we're asking the board to approve this budget.
Okay.
And James, could you just, for identification purposes, I'm assuming we are looking at the document that is 21 pages, the first page of which is the consolidated management operating budget FY
Yeah.
ending 12/31/24, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great.
And the first number on the left should be 52,380.
Exactly. Great. Thank you.
I just wanted to, it's a Stoughton budget. There's 5 documents that say 5A, so I don't know which document we need to be in.
So it's the one that says Stoughton budget 2024.
Okay, that's what I thought. Just want to make sure.
Yep.
Right, and on the first page, the top left number in the column should say 52,380.
Yep, got it.
Okay. So if there are any other questions, I will just go over some of the larger variances. So when this says 2023, this is a 12-month prior year budget, just July through June instead of January through December. But for comparative purposes, it's 12 months of 2023 and 12 months of this budget. With that said, this budget has slightly an increase in rental income across the board in both the federal and state programs, a result of lower vacancies and also just the makeup of the tenants. Their 30% is slightly higher than it was in a previous budget year. Although it looks like HLC is giving us less money, that is not the case. The last time we filed a budget with them, they gave us an add-on of $130,000 for leftover unpaid fire bills that go back a few years. That's not in this budget. So therefore, the true change in subsidy between the state for these 2 years is roughly a positive $60,000. HAP subsidies up about $150,000. That's just a result of the higher fair market rents on Section 8, as I'm sure the board is aware. And then the last large change in revenue is HUD is actually funding us a few dollars more. Again, a result of higher utility costs in certain cases and just rental income, just the way the HUD calculation is done. With that all said, this budget's projecting about $187,000 more in revenue than last year's full 12-month budget. Are there any questions before I head down to the expenses?
Anybody have any questions?
No,
Okay.
I have the budget on my screen, folks, so if you have any questions, just speak up because I won't be able to see you if you're just raising your hand.
Under administration, the expenses are basically level funded. Legal's slightly higher, just HLC is giving Stoughton a $7,000 add-on to subsidy to cover legal costs now that the pilot program has ended. However, in order to be part of that program, you have to budget double that amount. The idea being that we'll pay for 7, but we expect you'll end up paying for 7. So even though it's budgeted at 15 grand, I find it hard to believe we'll spend that amount of money, but it's just a formula-driven thing. And then salaries are an increase of 5%, which is allowable under DHCD's or HLC's current budget guidelines for 2024. With that said, I will move on to utilities.
Hey,
The electric.
James, I'm sorry to interrupt. Do me a favor, as you finish each category, just ask if anyone has any questions, okay?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions on the admin side? Administration costs?
no.
Okay. Moving on to utilities. Water is budgeted higher. I'm sure everyone's aware of water rates. Electric is less. This again is a result of in 2023, I totally overestimated utilities based on what was expected at the time for utility rate jumps. And now, since things have leveled off, we actually have actuals over the last 12 to 18 months. So that is just a reflection of the fact that the budget number is more in line with the actual costs of today. And then we have the solar power. As our board is aware, we've entered into a solar power agreement. Are there any questions on the utility section?
Yeah, real quickly. Is the 2023 expenses for electric were budgeted at 306,
Yep.
and this year it's 226?
Yes.
What was the actual for 223?
For June of 2023?
No. What was the actual for 2023 in total versus the budget? See, I'm saying we budgeted 306.
Yeah.
Then we dropped it by almost 81,000.
But as I stated, when I built the budget in 23, I overinflated the electric number by probably $100,000.
Because of the fear of what the economy was going to do?
The rates, the fear of what the
Okay.
utility rates are going to be. But I will
Okay,
check.
and they
The
didn't
numbers are here.
they didn't go off the handle as much as
As much as I expected. No, I mean, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And for 12 months ending June 30th, 2023, total electric costs were $160,000 for 12 months. And I budgeted $300,000.
Okay.
So the number that I have in this budget is higher than where I actually spent, but significantly lower than I budgeted.
Okay. That's kind of what the question was.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, James.
Yeah. All set on utilities.
Mhm.
The next section of the budget comparative is the section that's driving the largest change to the budget. Maintenance. As I'm sure the board's aware, labor costs are driven by DLI. So whatever those rates are at the time, we don't have control. So the increase in labor is a result of that. Supplies and contract costs, it's just based on the vacancy turnovers. The cost of everything has gone up significantly. If the board wants, Colleen can probably weigh in here, but I've seen it in all the housing authorities I work with, and I've seen it in all the housing authorities that Colleen manages. And for the most part, as I'm sure the board's aware, HLC came out with a 90-day vacancy initiative back in September and October of 2023. And so the large increase in maintenance costs are related to just the cost of doing business today. Are there any questions on that?
I do just want to point out that when we turn over a vacancy, the older these buildings are, the more expensive it is to turn over a vacancy. So clearly the hope is that it looks like we're going to get a good infusion of capital dollars. We desperately need that because when you can do a full project like kitchens and baths or, anything you can do all at once helps with your turnover rate down the line at that property. So it's very difficult to do full projects like that anymore, like full capital projects like that with the funding that we get. So when we do turnovers are usually significant. They usually always have asbestos abatement attached to them, which really drives the cost up. For many years, we could leave the floors as is. We cannot anymore. A lot of the floors are trip hazards. A lot of the floors are a problem. As soon as we start ripping up flooring, we're into asbestos abatement. So these are the things that are really driving up the costs of turning over vacancies, even just trying to do the basics. The some people just get in, clean it, paint it. Can't do that with some of these units anymore. They're just, they're too old. So unless it's a unit that we've already done in the last few years, it's going to take more work to turn it over. So when we do that, a lot of times we're trying to take advantage of any type of vacancy initiative money that the state has. We're still trying to do that as much as we can and take advantage of that and really turn these units over. And whether that's a condition of us using contract costs along with our own labor, along with, overtime to make sure that we're keeping our vacancies at a good rate. And actually right now, our vacancies are at a good rate. Like it's just turning them over though when they do become vacant is time consuming. It's more time consuming than we'd like. The 30 days is what we'd love to see, but that's not what we see when we turn over units.
Okay, thanks, Colleen.
I
Good,
had a
James.
question too.
Oh, good, Bill.
The labor costs for the maintenance part of it, is this our maintenance staff?
Yes.
Yes, so the Department of Labor and Industry rate is the maintenance staff. So the Housing Authority, when you do the annual budget, you might give a % increase if we have the ability to administrative staff. But you never do that to maintenance staff because the maintenance staff is set by the Department of Labor and Industry rate. And that comes out around this time every year. It actually came out a few weeks ago. It can come out anytime between, March, April. We see that. That is the rate that drives the maintenance staff of whether or not they will or won't get a %. I will say over the last few years, there's always been a %. The question is, how high is that %? And that's based on a formula, Department of Labor and Industry rate that involves unions in certain areas. So for instance, Stoughton's DL&I rate for a mechanic and a laborer is higher than Taunton's because of where you're located. Okay.
Right. The question I was getting at is I thought we added a maintenance position. So I would have assumed that the labor rate would have gone up higher as opposed to just, did we not add a position, or with all the people leaving and coming, did I just get confused somewhere?
Right. So
we have 6, I'm sorry, Colin, there's 6 people in this budget.
Mm-hmm. And that's correct. That's like what we did is we hired a little bit early for Wayne's position when he was retiring out.
Okay. So it's just all the changes.
That was last year though. That was, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think there was a larger, if I recall, I think there was a larger increase when the board approved the 2023 budget compared to the 2022 budget, because I think we were carrying almost 7 or 7.5 maintenance staff at that time.
Yeah, and we still have Wayne part-time for us, still but we've always kind of had that part-time position at one point in there, but we put on a kind of seasonal help.
That's fine. I thought we just added a staff member and thought the labor would have been much different with an additional labor, with an additional maintenance staff.
Yeah.
So you didn't need my whole dissertation on the DL&I rate?
Yeah, no.
Usually
I
not.
did though. I thought that was very well done. Thank you, Colin.
Hey, James, but what we're looking at is an increase of $11,000 on a $412,000 line item, right?
Yeah.
For labor. So as a percentage, it's a pretty low percentage increase, right?
That would be again, let's see, the 2023 budget, I have it open here. Maintenance salaries. We had 6 full-time staffers, now we only have 5. And we have, right, so we're down a full maintenance man compared to one year to the other.
Okay. But am I reading this correctly? The increase in that line item is $11,000, right?
Increase is $11,000, correct.
Right.
And the rates, the rates went up on average. $2.
Okay. All right.
So
Very good.
it seems like a small increase, but with all the changes between the lack of one employee, the increases and this and that, they got a robust raise. It's just that you're down a person compared to
Right.
that budget that you're looking at.
That's kind of where I was getting at too.
Right.
Just, if I could just clarify one thing, sorry. When we
Yeah.
look at 2004, the new budget, and then we look at 2003,
Yeah.
we're comparing budgets to budgets, not budget to actual.
No, budget to budget.
Okay, because what I'm saying is if 2003 were an actual, you'd see the difference you'd see the increase and the one person difference. You don't when you compare budget to budget.
Correct.
So have we closed out 2023, James?
You closed out the June close of 2023, and we've also closed out the December of 2023.
Okay. So if I'm not saying for now, but if need be, we could look at actuals, right, for 2023?
The actual maintenance cost for 2023 was $378,000
For labor.
for labor.
For labor, right. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any more questions on this item? If not, we'll continue moving on. Go ahead, James.
One of the larger increases on this budget is the insurance expense. I'm not sure if Colleen mentioned it to the board, but for the first time, I'm not sure if I mentioned it to the board, the last budget, DHCD the insurance company has required DHCD to charge a different rate by different type of unit. You are now being charged $321 per state family unit on insurance for property and $272 per unit for elderly and 689.
Okay.
These are increases of 33% and 57% from the prior year.
What
It
about
was-
I'm sorry, James. What has
It
the
was
Fed
only
done?
$205 in the prior year.
What has the Fed done? Anything?
The Fed Colleen gets to bid that out or go through Housing Insurance Services. So the Fed rate, I budgeted, I think, for the 10% increase from last year, but that's minimal compared to the federal increase.
Okay.
We may
And
see
every-
the same increase on the federal side,
Yeah.
Once that comes back in. I mean, housing authority insurance is, I think the whole industry, we're seeing it in the whole industry.
Mhm.
Health insurance rates just.
No, every insurance person I talk to, it's the same. In fact, in some cases, you're probably lucky that we can still get insurance.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So when you look at sort of the bottom line, 9% increase to all the operating costs overall, it really gets eaten up very fast with the rates that we're dealing with. And not only the insurance rates an issue, the actual amount now that we have to pay out should we have an incident is significantly higher. Our deductible went way up.
Mm.
So, what we have to pay out for deductible is significant.
Yeah.
The deductible is now $9,000 on the state side.
Oh,
Up
and
from
just-
$3,000.
Colleen, out of curiosity, were our rates affected by the fire at Capon Street?
It's hard to say that it's just, it wouldn't just be the fire because it's a statewide. It's very hard to kind of get what they call your loss runs on an individual basis. So when it goes into a statewide loss run, but I'm sure that's, of course that's going to have an effect on rates. But it's also going to take into account all the other instances that happened across the state, that were issues,
Right,
that were payouts. So
Right.
it's not just the fire at Capon Street. It would be, there's another large fire in, oh gosh, I want to say Waltham, but it's not Waltham.
Right.
So, we weren't, there were incidences across the state that contribute to that.
Right.
I think it's not a good clash because it's all of these, we might have higher incidences, but there's also just flat out higher rates across the board
Right.
in the insurance industry. But
Okay.
definitely losses affect though.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right, James.
The HAP expense increase from last budget year is offset by the revenue up above. If the board wanted to check real fast, that again is related to Section 8. Any comments on total general expenses?
No.
Okay. And then the last section is the non-routine where we budget for extraordinary items. In 2023, we had room under, I shouldn't say room, we had reserves that were a little higher than they are with this budget, so we budgeted some non-routine. This year we didn't budget any non-routine. There is a truck, or excuse me, there's a van budgeted in this year's budget, which on the federal side for $55,000, and that is the end. So from 23 to 24, we're actually budgeting $51,000 less of net income across the board. Strictly a result basically of higher maintenance contract and supply costs.
Okay.
The agency's revenue stream is healthy. All other costs are under control. However, due to just the environment, what industry we survive, we exist in, the maintenance contract costs and supplies have outpaced revenue significantly. Along with, as Colleen mentioned, on the state side, we're getting, for the first time in HLC's existence, I think I discussed this with the board last budget meeting, but maybe I didn't. In addition to the insurance being split by type of units, they also split your increase to your allowable non-utility, the amount by which we could spend on the state side. They gave a 7% increase for your family units, and they gave a 13% increase on the elderly units, which resulted in the authority actually getting a weighted increase of about 11%. So as Colleen mentioned, we were able to spend up to 11% more on the state side, your state 400 program. However, insurance went up 50%. So the increase was, on a dollar basis, the increase was, where is it? Appendix B. $1,058,000, about $120,000. But of that, we used about $20,000 alone of it in insurance. So 20 divided by 120. You used about 16-17% of your increase on one line item alone. Are there any questions on the overall budget comparative?
No.
Donald, anything you have?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So the next page 3 and 4 are the same numbers, just broken down by program. I won't waste the board's time unless there's something on pages 3 and 4 they'd like to look at.
Yeah, James,
Again,
let me
it's-
just, if I
Yeah.
could, just Colleen is, because I don't, as you said, they're the same numbers, just broken up by program, as James just said. Is there anything, Colleen, that you want to point out to us or think we need to be aware of on a particular program?
No, I mean, I think that, we're really going to try, like I said before, we're trying to make bigger changes to affect the day to day. So when we get to, things like the 705 grant, the, putting in the air source heat pumps into the family sites right now, we're trying to affect the day-to-day budget by anything we can capture, in the big picture. That
Okay.
being said, as we know, the House just put out, 112 million, for operating for housing authorities. That's about a 4.6% increase, I think, or it's under 5. So that's not exactly going to, make everybody feel better around these budgets for next time. We did file amendments, filed an amendment to bring it up to $117 million. We do have some backers for that. There's not a lot of appetite right now because of what the state of Massachusetts is, on the operating side. But we are still super hopeful around the capital side. And a big infusion of capital, does trickle down into your day to day. And that's, I think, just how I have to look at it right now, that to get those bigger ticket stuff into the fold.
Okay.
So that we can, survive these budgets, because quite frankly, like a budget with, no extraordinary maintenance in it isn't great. Like, that's where we want to, be able to put funding. But it's very hard with the increases that we have seen across the board. And I'm not hopeful that this next operating budget from the state is going to be that helpful.
And I guess, James, I would just ask you, is there anything that you see on sort of a program by program basis that we should be concerned with?
Well, no, I was actually, if the board wanted to, page 5, which is a new schedule in the budget, it
Okay.
should say reserves at the top.
Okay, yes, reserves as of December 31, 2024.
Right.
Yep.
I would point out to the board that the top level is the maxes and the minimums, where we are at 12/31/23, the projected increases and decreases by programs on this budget. And then the percentages on the bottom are all pretty healthy. The only one that's, the 58% under the state consolidated of about $525,000 worth of reserves. HLC's current regulations require that we maintain a 35% reserve level.
Okay.
So that's the 315 up above. We're at projected at 525. So we're ranging around $200,000, 210. 58. This number has dropped, I want to say, about 5% over the last 2, 3, 4 years every year. It's not as a result of bad management. It's as a result, as Colleen mentioned, as the expenses go up, our reserve requirements, as DHC's defined reserves are 50% of total expenses is the max, and then 35% of that is the minimum. But if the expenses go up $300,000, then our reserves need to go up by, 150 is half of that is 75. So if the total expenses go up 300,000, we need to add 75 grand to our reserves just to maintain the same level. But none of our budgets ever make $75,000. So just the way the formula is driven, as Colleen brought up earlier, every year, even though things look okay, in terms of how the formulas are generated and the regulations are required in terms of reserves, our reserves are slowly dwindling just based on formulas.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've seen that in every housing authority. Ones that used to be at 100% are now at 75% over the last 3 years.
Right.
And management hasn't done anything different. The only thing that's been different is maintenance costs are driving total expenses. Insurance is driving total expenses now. So when you do the formula, in order to increase your reserves, you have to make money. But if we have to spend up to our budgets, we can't make any money.
Okay.
So it's an artificial. We're behind the 8 ball before we even start.
Right.
So I would just.
I said, we can't submit a budget that's not over 30, at or over the 35%. So, I mean, again, this is like a budget document, and, the budgeted reserve is great, but to get to that budgeted reserve, we are, like I said, zeroing out a line item like extraordinary maintenance. So
Yeah.
it's just, it's very hard to make those numbers work. I think the state has to relook at the 35%. We were just talking about that the other day. And it is what it is right now. Like, it will, something's going to give. And like I said, right now, if this big infusion of capital was not on the table, I'd be really, feeling a little more doomsday about public housing as a whole. But that will be a big lift.
Well, and while Colleen's here, and since she has more knowledge in this than I probably do, at one time the minimum was 20%, and then DHCD 1 year during the budget decided to move the 20 to 35%.
Right.
I don't know their rationale for that at the time. Maybe Colleen was aware of that, being on all the conferences and having ins and outs, but what it did was increase reserves needed by 15%. And for a lot of housing authorities, that was a lot of money. So
and the 20% is just more realistic for budget submission too. But what it was too is it also affects the performance management review. It also has the ability of the state to say you have to use your own money to do this particular project or to do this turnover because your reserve is higher than 35% opposed to.
So
in a few different areas.
Yeah.
So it benefited them to bring it to the 35.
Right.
But I think realistically, in the last conversation we had with them, and we'll do it again this month on the housing committee, is in this environment, it's not a realistic reserve level when you're preparing.
Okay. Thank you.
So I just, when you asked me about programs, they're all in great shape, I would say. Even the state consolidated, I'd say, is in great shape given the current environment. It's just that based on the way the DHCD drives their formulas and the PMRs and everything else, I just want the board to know that no matter, we strive to, I hate to say this, we're striving to make money just so that way we can stay above the 35%.
Right.
And in order to do that, we're cutting corners, like Colleen said, by not budgeting for non-routine and other areas of we might need to keep, I hate to say but we might need to keep a computer an extra year longer than replacing it. It sounds like short money, but at this point, every $2,500 or $3,000, might be what keeps us above. I'm not saying we'll be there tomorrow, but I'm just saying that if, like I said, if it doesn't change and this continues, it'll just go down probably 5% next year and then 5% next year. And before you know it, we'll be teetering at that 35% level.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want to make sure, although the overall consolidated budgets look good, I want to make sure there wasn't sort of one particular program, for instance, that wasn't performing up to snuff, and the other programs were carrying that program on the consolidated budgets to make things look good. So, for instance, if there was something
not today,
if there was something that was trending in the wrong direction, that hopefully, to the extent that we could, that we try to get out in front of any such trends.
Well, that would be the state consolidated budget if we're talking about it today. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Did anyone else have any questions or comments on that? If not, James, what else do we have to review?
The rest of the budget pages are just supplemental schedules to all of the line items.
Yeah.
And I know the board has a huge agenda, so I'll waive my time. Unless there's some page the board wants me to review with them, I will, this will be fine with my presentation, unless there's something the board wants me to go over. But every other page in here is just supplemental schedules required by HLC or HUD for your overall budget.
Right.
There's nothing on there that doesn't link up to the first few pages we've looked at.
Okay. And not to put anyone on the spot, but I'll just ask if, Colleen, if there's anything that you want to point out to us, and then I'll ask resident expert Donald if there's any items that you had either a comment or question on. But I'll go to Colleen first to see if there's anything, Colleen, that you wanted to point out to us or any comments that you may have.
I mean, I think other than the comments that I made, I mean, I know what's driving the budget. I mean, I certainly know what's driving the costs, within the budget. And Stoughton is no different than any other housing authority there. And just to say that, I think we have to continue to just, look to other things that might be a little more out of the box, grab those grant applications, do that kind of stuff, to assist the budget as
Mhm.
much as we can. And I feel like we're doing that. So other than that, I don't.
Well, and plus, and not to pat you on the back any more than I already do, but one of the nice things about the fact that you have experience with other housing authorities is, you can see whether something's an outlier or whether it's typical for other housing authorities,
Yes.
So I think we benefit from that added experience that you have with other housing authorities. And same with James, we're obviously not the only housing authority that you have as a client. So to the extent that there are
I wish you were.
to the extent that there are industry trends as opposed to an anomaly in a budget, it helps to have that experience.
No, the industry trends are higher maintenance supplies, contract costs, and insurance.
Yeah, which is true of everything.
Which all makes sense, and I'm sure the board can understand. So there's no other anomalies or any other strange amounts here I'd be concerned about. That's it. And again, as Colleen mentioned, DHCD, the insurance for the state program is RFP'd by the state at the top level.
Yeah.
So it's not even a place that we can try to, I hate to use the word skim, but not even a place where we can try to shop ourselves for the insurance because we have to take it from the states.
Yeah. And Colleen, just one follow-up question for you. When we get done with this, are we voting on this budget tonight?
You are the certifications to complete,
Okay.
the certifications that we do for every budget. But I do have the certifications here. So yes.
Okay. Very good. Then I'll open it to either Donald or Bill, if either of you have any questions or comments.
No, I'm all set. I like the Cliff Notes version.
Donald, anything that you have? Okay. So, Colleen, for procedural purposes, should we
We
go?
do have to vote each of the certifications by program
Okay.
on the
Is
state
that what-
side.
All right. And we have those.
Those are the other documents that are notated as 5A.
Yeah.
It should be Word documents.
Okay. Well, there was 2 Word and
Three of them?
They
3
should
Word and-
actually, they're 5A. They should actually say like HAFIS, which is just the financial system. Sorry.
Yeah.
HAFIS budget certifications is what the title of them is. And there's one for 689-1, one for 401, 4001, however you prefer, and MIBP.
James, if you don't mind just hanging for another minute or two, just till we finish the cert, just in case a question were to come up.
No, I'm here now, so it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Colleen,
We can start. You want to start with the 4001?
yeah, if I can I need to go back to, so which document should we open up?
It should say 5A budget certification 400-1 doc.
Okay.
It is a Word document. James is correct.
Yeah.
It looks like the first one after 3B.
Yes.
Okay. Give me, did you say the MRVP? No, the 401. Yeah.
401.
Yep.
Okay.
Open sesame. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to move that over. I'm going to try to move that over to my other screen. Bear with me one second.
Who gave you a second screen?
Hey, Bill, you should see me here. I'm all high tech now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay. And now if I could only read it, I'd be doing even better. Okay, so Colleen, do you just want to give us a quick intro here? So this is on the 400-1.
Correct. This is the 400-1. So this is actually, the state looks at these documents. This has it pretty wrapped up for them and exactly what we're requesting for subsidy. So the 401 program fiscal year end 12/31/2024, showing a total revenue of 1,244,937 with total expenses of 1,802,205, thereby requesting a subsidy of 576,282,000.
Okay, I will accept that in the form of a motion. Somebody care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Bill. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Donald. Any further discussion on that certification? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call of the members. Bill,
Yes.
Donald,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. That is unanimous. And well,
So the next one would be
IB
the 689-1.
Yeah. Colleen, just a quick question. Looks like I only see is this just a signature for who signs this?
I sign this, but the board members do sign the back, so we'll be sending this around to you.
Oh, I see it now. I didn't scroll down far enough to see that third page.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. So let me reduce that. And the next one, Colleen, I'm sorry, is which one? What do you
The
want to
next
do next?
one, the next one is a 689.
Okay.
And that is showing a total revenue of 31,225, total expenses 27,152, therefore requesting a subsidy of 0.
Oh, right. My math was failing me there for a second. Okay. I will accept that as I will entertain that in the form of a motion. Somebody care to make that motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Bill. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Donald. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call of the members. Bill,
Yes.
Donald,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. That also is unanimous. Colleen, next one.
The next one would be the Mass Rental Voucher Program, MRVP. That is showing a total revenue of $21,850. Total expenses, $420,779, requesting a subsidy of $400,000.
Okay. So, Colleen, perhaps to refresh my memory, explain to me how that works and why there's such a discrepancy between the revenues and the expenses.
Yeah, so this is a different program than the public housing. The
Right.
Mass Rental Voucher Program is just that, a voucher program where people can, rent units in the community. We pay a portion of that rent. So this is how the state disperses the subsidy on that. So this becomes a really subsidy-based disbursement program. So we're always billing them on a subsidy basis.
So even though we get the subsidy, are those expenses borne by us initially? Or, I mean, we get the subsidy to bring it up to basically a level funded amount. How is it, I guess my question is, how is it that the revenues are 20-odd thousand and the expenses are 400,000?
Because in the expenses, you have the HAP expense, but you don't
Okay.
have the subsidy. It's just the way they're presenting their certification.
Okay,
Your revenue for the MRVP is your HAP subsidy revenue, and then your admin fee that you get. You get $50 per unit leased, and then there's some small interest.
okay,
Well, so the real revenue of the program is just the admin fee and the interest, which is $21,000. The expenses say 400 and something thousand, because in that 400 is $400,000 worth of HAP expenses, like a Section 8 program you're paying
Okay.
out. And then HLC is going to reimburse you that $400,000, but they're calling it a subsidy.
okay,
So
gotcha.
it looks wacky, which I understand why you made that question.
Yeah.
But in essence, the MRVP program actually makes money every year because the expenses are less than that $21,000 that we bring in the net.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks, James.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any other questions on that, on the MRVP? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. I'll Will somebody make a motion to approve as read by the director?
I make the motion.
Motion made by Bill. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Donald. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call of the members. Bill?
Yes.
Donald?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, that is unanimous. Was that our last one, Colleen?
You'll have a federal one now. That's the last one on the state. And I just want to point out quickly, and some of this was under my ED report, so I can just, as we go along though, the MIVP program, believe it or not, is actually getting a huge shot in the arm under the budget. So I think that's actually a program that will expand and will do well. It came out very well out of the House budget. So my thought is it's a good thing we have MIVP because that's another program that I think might do well.
Oh, good. Good.
Okay.
So is the HUD one the one that says 52574?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So the 52574, this is the HUD version of kind of accepting the budget. This just says that we have to submit that the operating budget was approved, and that this, all statutory and regulatory requirements have been met. PHA has sufficient operating reserves, which we do. The federal side, of course, looks better than the state.
Always.
Yes.
Yeah.
Proposed budget expenditures are necessary in the efficient economical operating of the housing authority. The budget indicates a source of funds adequate to cover all proposed expenditures. PHA will comply with the wage rate requirement, which means any type of capital work that we do does fall under the wage rates. And the PHA will comply with the requirement for access of records and audits. And this just, of course, we do an audit every year to audit our federal program. So I would just ask the board to vote by resolution for the federal requirements and the budget.
All right. So we're approving the federal budget per the resolution that Colleen just referenced. It's dated, what is it dated? Fiscal year began January 2024. This will be signed by me, it looks like, Colleen, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. All right. So I will entertain a motion to approve the federal budget and the certifications as presented. Somebody care to make that motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Donald. Any further discussion? Hearing none, take a roll call of the members. Bill?
Yes.
Donald?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. That is also unanimous. Is that it on the budgets, Colleen?
Yes, it is for certification.
Anything else that we need James for, as much as we would like him to stick around? There's nothing else I don't see on the agenda, correct?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we have, no, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Unless you want to add anything, James, I think we're good.
I'm
No,
sorry, what was the last part? You turned around and I couldn't
Oh, I'm
hear
sorry.
what
I
you
said think unless James wanted to add anything, I think we're good.
Okay.
No,
Jim-
I have nothing to add. Just one quick note for the board. As a result of moving your budget, as a result of moving your year end and the fact that Colleen mentioned you get audited, you will get an audit, but you won't see it in June. It'll now be December. And when Markham comes in to do the single audit for Stoughton, it'll actually be for the year ended December 31st, 2024 balance sheet date. And the income statement will actually be an 18-month income statement running from July of 2023 all the way through December of 2024
Okay.
will be what they will audit.
So they'll come in December as opposed to January, James?
They'll come in to audit through December instead of through June.
Okay.
Normally, if you had talked to Colleen, they probably would have come in sometime in October. They'll
Yeah.
probably come in instead in April or May
Yeah,
of 2025.
Right.
I'm just saying, if the board, I didn't know if the Colleen usually presented the audit report to the board, and if the board's looking for it come next, November or December, it won't exist at that
Right.
time.
Right.
Because they're not going to do it until you close this fiscal year, which ends in December. So the next time you see an audit will probably not be until maybe sometime this time here next year.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay.
I just wanted the board to understand that.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. unless either Bill or Donald have any further questions of James, I think we can cut him loose.
Thank
James,
you.
James,
Have a nice
thank
night.
you. Thank you. Good seeing
Thank
you.
you.
See ya.
And
James.
we'll see you whenever we see you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
James. Okay, bye-bye. All right, so getting back on track, we had tabled item 3, the accounting. So I'll entertain a motion that we take item 3 off of the table. Somebody care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Bill. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Donald. So item 3A is the bill schedule. Just take a second to open that up. Looks like we had a
So-
fairly short schedule, Colleen,
Well,
right?
it's gonna look shorter because we are trying a different format.
Okay,
And really trying to make it a little less, so you won't see the million things under it.
okay,
So it's really just gonna print the payment, what it was, and the amount. You won't see the million programs that it might have been.
oh, yeah, right.
Are we on the bill
So-
schedule or are we on?
We're on the bill schedule, Bill,
Okay,
Yep,
okay.
which is it's what's labeled calling vendor accounting cash payment / receipt register, correct?
that's correct.
Right. And at the top right, we have a ratification in the amount of $117.72. We have
Mhm.
payments in the amount of $110,225.16 for a total of $110,342.88. I'll just give
That's correct.
everyone a second. It's only about a page and a half, but Colleen, is there anything in particular that you wanted to point out to us here? Obviously, our eyes tend to gravitate towards the big ticket items, but is there
Of course.
anything that requires any further
One good thing. Yep.
explanation?
So the one thing that I do want to point out is, so anytime so a lot of these bigger, not always, but the 22,000, is obviously a mod project. You can see where it says mod, right there in the description, in
Yeah,
the document description. Architectural Solutions is a architectural firm, working on a big window project out at La Civita. So hopefully we can get what we need from this. A lot of these are, recurring bills. Generally, the big ones though are sometimes mod, but also contractors.
Okay.
Anytime plumbing and heating, that's a regular expense that hits our budget. Since we're talking about budget, these are the things when they don't say mod that they are hitting our budget.
okay,
And I think sometimes that's just important to see that we still end up with, some good sized bills for service calls, plumbing issues, electrical issues, like those don't go away.
Mhm.
They don't all get tucked on the mod. And
Mhm.
oftentimes, they can be expensive. You look at Flint Pest Control, that's for Silver House. That's for, $6,300 almost. That's a good size chunk of money. That does not come
Yeah.
out of organization. That comes out of contract costs.
Yep, okay,
And that's something that you can't sit on. That's a pest issue that obviously has to be taken care of.
Right.
Mass Narrow Insurance Group Trust, they're trying not to go up. That's our workers' comp,
Mhm.
22,987. That's on the second page. I would say out of all of the insurances that have increased, this one has increased the least, which has been great. That's a self-insured group. And we seem to continue to do well under that, or I would go out for that.
Yeah.
But we do continue to do well under that particular insurance. That insurance, by the way, we do have control over.
Okay,
Is
Okay,
that a yearly rate?
it is.
Okay.
Colleen, I do see that we have some legal expenses, one associated with Memorial Drive. It's a small amount, but I'm just curious, is that an eviction?
Driscoll and Driscoll Legal Services.
On the first page,
Driscoll and Driscoll?
yeah,
Yes, that was an eviction.
okay, that's already taken place
It's in process.
in process, okay.
The legal, I mean, will we hit that legal amount? You go down further, you see legal 30,
Yep.
31 Memorial, are we gonna hit legal costs, to the amount that James is talking about? Yeah, we very well could. I mean, we could.
Mhm.
That's, there is some,
Well,
realism in that.
um,
Hopefully, we might.
frankly, I mean, knock on wood, we've been fortunate, but I'm surprised we don't incur more, you know? But we've been lucky that for the most part we really haven't.
Mhm.
All right. Anybody have any questions on the bills? Bill?
Yeah, just a quick question on the Buxton Road solar. I'm just infatuated with the solar thing. So, that bill comes. I'm just trying to understand how this works, right? So we got involved in this, and I know we've been involved a long time, but we've had so many things go on. We couldn't get a reading on the solar. Have we started to figure out how this is actually doing?
I
So
would say,
this fee of 15,000, that is a monthly fee?
no. I think that this one, and Bill, I'd have to look it up. I think this one is quarterly.
Quarterly, okay.
Yep. But the
So
solar
we're paying-
farm.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're purchasing from the solar farm at the reduced rate. And then they are also selling part of the electricity kind of back to the grid. So and that helps to get us the reduced rate
Okay.
that we're getting. So we've looked at this solar farm. I do have to say, the state has a new, resiliency environmental person. I've spoken to him about this, because we're obviously not the only agency that has a solar farm, that bought into the solar farm. There's a bunch of them that did. And he's looking at them, to determine, are they still our best bet, to get the most bang for our buck. I do think that when we look back, our electricity, has not increased to the degree that I've seen it increase in other places that don't have the solar farm, including Taunton, where we have the TMLP. So we cannot buy into solar farms or at a municipality. I think Stoughton does better, under the solar farm. And you're in a much higher rate electrical area than we are.
Taunton.
Yep. So I do think, but do I have the nitty gritty of it other than looking at like previous invoices? I don't. And I've had these discussions with the state, how are they looking at it? What's the best way to assess this? And they have a hard time figuring out like the best way to assess it other than just looking at the billing and saying, okay, this is less than what we're paying.
Right. That's why you look at it and you're like, obviously, we need a lot of electricity. I just don't remember what it was before the solar farm. So I'm just, because I don't think, I think the solar farm we got into right before I came on. So I've never really was able to see what the differences were. And it's just really, I'm curious about it.
Yes, so we can go back and pull some really old bills from Capon Street because Capon Street is really the one that we had a hard time getting a good hold on. Capon Street is definitely, it's all electric. It was like a nightmare. It's a lot of money. And then we had, of course, as you know, we had the elevator project that opened up part of the window. We then had the fire. It was like hard to tell whether and that's where we really thought we would see the most savings because of how high it was then. But I think even if we just look at the last 2 years, we're going to see, good strides up against what we paid previous to that elevator install, previous to this at Capon Street for electric. So maybe we can just pull that bill just to like look at.
Yeah. Well, it's just sometimes when you look at it, you're like, oh, we're paying 15,000. What kind of benefit is that? But it still seems like a lot. But
no, it is a lot. I mean, electric's a lot anyway, no matter what.
In general, right?
But
Yeah.
Capon Street was very high. I mean, Capon Street was definitely on the state's list of, buy into a solar farm. To get into a solar farm.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that it's a good property to look at.
Mhm. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Donald, anything on your end?
Believe it or not, I was gonna ask the same thing that Bill just did. Only because I was wondering since, like Colleen just said that the state was earmarking some properties and saying this is so high. Obviously, Capon Street's heated that way. That you got to buy into a solar farm. So I wonder if someone at the state level followed up and said and did a study and found out if these solar farms actually are cheaper. I guess it's the same question Bill was asking. I was
Right.
wondering, did anyone ever, obviously they were looking for us to do it. Did someone follow up and figure out if it was a good idea?
Right. And that's what I think Greg Abbey's trying to do at the state level. So he's right now, and he just got, I think, someone to work with him, but he was kind of the only person, that was doing a lot of this on the state, and he's only been in there for like 2 years.
Yeah.
So, but he did just recently ask me, about the solar farms, about, what might be, a good alternative, and what if you can layer things along with it. So the initial contracts that we did were approved by the state. It was actually legislation that said, housing authorities should buy into these solar farms. And I do have no doubt there's benefits. I just don't know, to what degree across the state, I'm not sure.
Right. No, I mean, both questions are very well put, and I think the difficulty is trying to get an answer to that question, Donald and Bill.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
then the state did other initiatives, right? Like, so they're
Yeah.
putting in air source heat pumps, just like they're doing down at the vets. That's going to affect the electric because that's going to be an all electric system.
Mhm.
And that's going to affect how much electricity. So you've really got to look at
Right.
it and have somebody who really does this, that says,
Right.
okay, it went up by this many, whatever, kilowatts, went
Yeah.
up by, but that's because we added all electric heating systems again.
Mhm.
We went from
Mhm.
like electric heating systems being the enemy and driving the cost, even when back in 2015. I mean, immediately you hit with Capon Street's all electric. Oh my gosh, like this is
Right.
a
Right.
huge amount of money. And now fossil fuels, everything else, now we're moving towards electric, yet we bought into these solar farms, and as some places across the state, including in Bridgewater, you put in these air source heat pumps, and that affects the rate
It
of
seems
electrical
like
use.
sorry. It seems like a rather simple test, actually. All you do is figure out how many kilowatts we used and basically what it cost per kilowatt and what it would have cost using a public service at
Right.
like 18. You know what I'm saying? It seems like an easy thing to test.
Except those rates change all the time.
Right.
No, I know, but I'm saying if we went back to last month and said, I know what were the rates at last month and what did we pay in or whatever, quarterly, however you did it. I know the rates change all the time, but on general, if we're paying $16 a kilowatt or whatever the case may be, and your general business is paying 19, well, then we're seeing a 3% or a $3, whatever. It seems like an easy thing to test. I don't know.
The problem, Bill, like Colleen mentioned, is there's so many variables. It's not like we have a set, test that it's not like putting solar panels on your house and saying, okay, how much are we paying now versus how much did we pay for the same time period last year before we put the solar panels on, because it doesn't work on a unit by unit basis, So, I mean, your point is well taken. I just don't know if the formula is as simple as you're suggesting.
We are urging Greg Abbey to look at it for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's definitely something that should be studied in it.
No, absolutely. Because now we're into it at this point, Colleen. For how long?
At least
how many
4
years?
years.
Yeah, we've got to be in probably, I guess, year 5 because it was right before. But that being said, we're only going to have about a year or two of data that would even make any sense because of the amount of work that was done. And you've really got to look at Cape Street. That's where all the electric was.
Yeah. All
So
right.
yeah, you can do that on a year-over-year basis. I'm just talking about a simplified method that would give her just whatever, like what the total was for a quarter.
Yeah, no, I mean, your bottom line point is well taken, which is, are we saving any money?
That's it. Yeah, I guess.
At the end of the day, does this investment that we've made with them save us money?
Right.
And hopefully we can find that out. Okay. Unless anybody has any other questions or comments, once again, the amounts are ratification of $117.72, bills in the amount of $110,225.16 for a total payment of $110,342.88. Somebody care to make that motion to make those payments?
Motion made.
Motion made by Bill. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Donald. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call of the members. Bill?
Yes.
Donald?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. That is unanimous. That's item 3A. 3B is the monthly financials. Colleen, what item?
This one is, this is the month. So this is January of 2024. Not a ton of data just yet, but that is the monthly comparative.
Okay, let me, monthly financial report, 3B, right?
Budget year.
Yeah. All right. Just open that up. And
I have just one question.
Go ahead, Donald.
Go ahead, Don.
Ordinary maintenance, it seems like there's some kind of out of whack between the prorated budget and the actual, because every single line item is off significantly, coming down to a total variance of like 48,000.
Right.
So let me just think about that for a minute, because generally it's like a divide by the 12. Yeah, and this one generally will even out at year end, but there is still a good chance that we'll be over at year end.
I think I'm gonna take a guess. You take someone took the consolidated budget, and when they do the prorated, they simply divide it by 12.
Correct.
Okay, where if you looked at how the budget was constructed, that might not be the case. For example, there might be more money put in January because of snow and bad weather and stuff like that.
Right.
So what I suspect is the straight line
method
by 12 across the board causes the problem. But that's just a guess, because I didn't put the budget together.
Yeah.
Donald, I think that makes sense, because I think to just look at, and you know this better than the rest of us, to just look at 1 month of a 12-month budget obviously is not going to take into account any variations that would occur throughout the year.
Not if you're dividing it straight by 12.
Yeah, right.
I'm pretty sure that that's what James is doing in this.
Yeah.
So not that I pay attention, but I don't always pay attention to the first, 2 or 3 months, because we're not starting to even out.
Right. Maybe, Colleen, if you could just confirm that with James, if that's the case, and just report back to us so we know.
Yeah, because we run an in-house Excel sheet that's showing, everything that we're purchasing up against what that is. And a lot of times we divide that by 12 too when we're doing it in-house. But in-house, we kind of know what that expense is.
Right.
That might be making it higher at 1 month opposed to another.
Right. And I mean, particularly when, 2 of the items materials and supplies and contract costs, obviously, they're gonna fluctuate, depending on what we're purchasing.
Absolutely.
And when we're purchasing those items. I mean, the salary figure shouldn't have that much of a variable because that we should be able to, assuming we are simply divided by 12, the salaries should be the same basically month to month.
Well, right, and we know that those are gonna change in April, between March and April for maintenance, but we have those numbers now.
Yeah.
We just got those in. We just got the
Okay.
dates in, so.
All right, so maybe if you could just confirm that with James.
I will.
Donald, any other items? Oh, there's Bill back to his mugshot.
That was it.
All right. Bill, I don't know if you had to run to the men's room or not, but
Yeah, I'm here.
oh, you're back. Okay. Did you have any questions on the January budget?
No.
Okay. This is informational, Colin, correct? We don't vote on this,
No,
correct?
you don't need to vote on that. It's
Right.
just something that, you receive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So that takes, unless anybody has anything else, that takes care of item 3B. Item 4, as always, my favorite part of the agenda, what I look forward to every month, the executive director's report. So,
I don't have a lot usually when the budget's coming, I don't do a lot on the ED report. I kind of jumped in a few. Obviously, you heard me talk about what's happening now on the state level. We're really tracking right now, what's happening with the budget. We of course would love to see, the higher number. Which for us, I think might just get to 117 million. We do know our partners, the Greater Boston Interfaith Organization. You've heard me speak of GBIO before. They did get a representative to file an amendment, bringing it all the way up to, I think, 138 million. That would be huge. That would be great. Not as hopeful about that. Probably a little more hopeful about the 117, but would be really fabulous to see the 138. We didn't think we would get somebody to do that amendment, but they did.
Okay.
So, we'll be watching that obviously, over the next week or so. So there's a lot of language changes, in the bond bill. There's a lot of great stuff coming down in the bond bill. That's what we really want to see happen. At this point, operating is super important. But if we can at least get something increased, the bond bill increases, like I said, it should happen, hopefully help us to day. So as we turn over vacancies, we're cognizant of the cost. We're cognizant if it doesn't fall under the vacancy initiative that we're doing the best we can to keep things in place. But that can be hard sometimes. We're not getting crazy here with vacancies, but we are trying to get people back into a good, clean, safe unit. That cost is really getting driven, and we will be later on in a few minutes doing the abatement service contract. Abatement we can usually get out of capital dollars 9 times out of 10, but not always, and it is a high cost anytime we're doing flooring. So,
Colin, did we ever reach back out to Senator Timmelty on that matter about trying to get him to come out?
Right. So we have not at this point, because now we're in full budget. I think I had told you, like, timing wise, it's we were kind of right past the point, headed into budget. We actually have a which I'm going to ask him if he is around next Wednesday. We have a legislative day. We're going into the State House. So I would love to also see him there in his office and visit our legislators. So we do have a legislation day next week with Mass Narrow. But I would still like him to come out.
What day of the week? What day of the week is that, Colin?
That's next Wednesday.
That's the 24th.
24th. Yes.
What
You're
time?
welcome to come. You're welcome to come, because that's not I think it starts at 10.
Okay.
It's kind of a short, like in the past, we used to do a big lunch in the Great Hall. We would always convene near the stairs. This time we have a meeting room. There is no lunch. So it starts at like 10. There's some speaking, and then we disperse into visiting our legislators.
Red Cross did one last month that I went into, and we did the usual stopping in to see the legislators on various things. Unfortunately, they weren't in session that day, so the attendance wasn't that great. Coincidentally, they were in session the next day, so it's one of those. What I would recommend, if you haven't already done it, where it's next week, is to send an email to the three members. Well, you'd have more counting your other housing authorities, but to try to find out who is going to be in that day.
Agreed.
Because if they're not in session, it's really a catch as catch can type of thing.
It is. The Mass Narrow tries to set those up too, especially for agencies. Like there might be multiple agencies with one legislator. You try to get those agencies to go in together.
We met. Our visits were largely with staff and not with the reps and senators.
Yes.
So if you could find out who's going to be there that day, I might try to reach out myself, now that you've mentioned that, to the three members of our delegation, the two reps and Senator Timilty, and see if they're going to be around.
They would be my first choice for visits, just because we have some stuff coming up in Stoughton. I would love the opportunity to talk to them.
Okay.
So when this sort of budget stuff is over, either way, I would like them to still come out. But it would be, like I said, they're a little bit of my priority right now.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and I'll follow up with, in fact, I'll give you a call on that tomorrow, Colleen, because there's some more stuff I want to discuss with you on that, but I don't want to take the time right now. Could you just elaborate, though, on what you were saying on the MRVP getting, I think you said, a shot in the arm?
So, yeah, the Mass Rental Voucher Program came up pretty big. Their percent was closer to a 30% increase. So Mass Rental Voucher Program seems to really be taking on some stride, which would be great, because a lot of times what happens is if they get additional vouchers, I know that there'll be some nonprofits that will be interested in getting those, but we of course would be very interested in getting those. And we've already got, so to speak, the vehicle. We're already running a program.
Okay.
So it's very easy for the state to just add vouchers to us under contract. So that's what we'll be hoping to see under the MRVP. They did come up a bit on the admin fee for MRVP, which was great. They're still not at what we get on a Section 8, but the admin fee, is decent now. So it's it could be a revenue making program for the agency if we can increase the number of vouchers.
Okay. That sounds good. Anything else that you had?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone have any questions of Colleen on her report? No. All right. Moving on to item 5. We already took care of 5A, the budget. 5B is an amendment. Let me just pull that up. Where's my cursor? 5B, 5A, 5A, 5A. I see what you mean, Bill. A lot of 5As.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. We need to number
5B. Looks like an old document because it still says DHCD.
That would be correct. And it's from March of 2023. So this was this was definitely one that they sent back out again.
It's a pretty big change too.
So these are a lot of the ones you can see. There's some asbestos abatement in here. There's some turnover work in here. And by the way, the 2023 date is probably not correct on this.
Right.
So this amendment extends the contract for services, as you can see, from June of 2025 to June 30th of 2026. But the change amendment here is, $1 million, 384, 773.94. A lot of those are items that we've gone after for additional funds, but you can see where it says the formula funding award, 314, 685. That's generally what the state throws out annually. And then we have some sustainability initiative funding That 953 is a lot of the big work that's happening down at the vets.
Okay,
So that's where we're putting air source heat pumps. That all came under sustainability money.
but this is not program specific only. It covers several different programs, right?
Yes, the formula funding award does. The rest of it gets a little more specific towards program where everywhere it says compliance reserve award, that's money in addition to that we
Okay.
went after for additional capital dollars.
But these items are not all at one site, is what I'm getting at.
No, some are not.
Right,
Some are,
right,
that's correct.
okay.
So I would just ask the board to vote amendment number 18.
So
The
we're-
contract for financial assistance to
So
increase.
it serves two purposes. It's extending the contract from June 30th, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. And it's increasing the amount by $1,384,773.94, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
Questions,
money
Bill?
that's awarded.
Yes, that's money that's been awarded.
That's-
This is where we really try to go after. I know some of these look small, but it's like they add up. They add up over the, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, over the year. Like, so
Yeah.
if we know that the state has a reserve for like asbestos or, you know, reasonable accommodations, automatic door openers, you know, we go after that.
Yeah.
Opposed to
Col-
hitting our regular budget.
Colleen, something doesn't seem right with the math. We got that $314,000 item. The other items don't seem to add up to another 600,000.
So
is
some
that-
of them are already in the.
Oh, wait, I'm
some-
sorry. That 953, I thought was the bottom line. It's not. I'm sorry.
No, the bottom line is the 1 million.
Right.
Three.
I got you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. At least you can tell that I'm looking at the numbers,
That's right.
even if I don't understand them.
But like I said, so the 6,000, 8,000, 7,000.
Right.
It might not seem like big, but when they start adding up, you know, we're just going at it what we can. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, back when 953,000 was a lot of money.
Exactly.
Yeah, back then.
Right. Anybody have any questions on this amendment?
No, it's a good deal.
Everyone good?
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. I'll entertain a motion that we approve amendment number 18 to the CFA 5001 in the amount of $1,384,773.94 and extend the contract from June 30th, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. Somebody care to make that motion?
Motion made.
Motion made by Bill. Is there a second?
Second,
Seconded by Donald. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? I'll take a roll call to members. Bill?
Yes.
Donald?
yes.
And the chair votes yes, that is unanimous. That's item 5B. 5C is a change order, two change orders, shut-off valve replacement at La Civita Court. That's
I'm just gonna ask the board to table C and E, if we can.
C and E.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to take a vote since we're gonna leave them on the table. So that brings us to item
D.
5D, which is the abatement services contract that you mentioned previously, Colleen.
Yes, so we bid out an abatement service contractor because we are using them so frequently with vacancies. And even when we're billing back to the state, we need somebody under contract, because in the last 12 months, it showed that we're getting closer to that bid out date, that bid out amount. So we want to make sure that we're bidding it by the guidelines. So the bid ended with Aqua Environmental. They do, as you can see, they do price according to the material. So whether something is made of concrete opposed to wood, opposed to carpet, miscellaneous items, but they subflooring, so they do bid out differently between those items.
Their bid quite
Says
a
they were
dip.
disqualified.
Say that again, Bill?
Says they were disqualified. From the bidding.
Not return required bid forms, asterisk. Oh, yeah.
Okay, yep, you're right. Sorry, Bill. It's green environmental.
Is this something that we should redo, Colleen?
No, it's because if they didn't return the bid forms, they are disqualified. So, but let's just, so it would be green environmental.
Well, I think what Barry might be saying
That's-
is such the big difference in, is this something we deal with a lot, all the time? Or is
Not
this
a lot.
something,
Yeah, not a lot. Most people, will do things correctly. But every now and then they do get disqualified. So let's
Hmm.
just table that too, because I just
Okay.
wanna,
Okay. And just before we table it, Colleen, so abatement service, is this asbestos abatement?
it is.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. All right, so you want to table this item as well then, right?
I do.
Okay. So that is also tabled. That brings us to 5F, which is any other business, before we get to old business and adjourn. Does anybody have anything
you-
under old, Bill?
you're missing, there's another bid there. Cleaning
Uh,
services?
The cleaning service, yep. That's also gonna be, it goes along with the painting, like if we're doing
Oh.
a turnover, so we're gonna also table that. I took it off the agenda.
Okay.
separately.
Yeah, that's what
Oh.
I was looking at. That's why I
Oh,
wasn't
I
sure.
was
what you
just
meant
looking, I
there.
was just looking at the attachment, so. okay.
Yeah,
We can't
Okay.
afford cleaning services, which is why I wanted it off the agenda, but should have also said take it off the attachment.
Yeah.
All right.
We're not gonna pay for that.
okay. Bill or Donald, anything under old business?
Yeah, one question. I apologize for not keeping up with town activities as well as I should. But Bill, congratulations on your reelection. But where does that, I keep bringing this up, where does that leave us with the empty seat?
That was actually the item I was going to bring up, Donald.
The only reason I bring it up, Barry, is if one person just can't make it or something like that, we get
Right.
close to not being having the quorum.
Well, right. I mean, we were one person away from having that happen tonight. So here's what happened. As you guys know, Bill was on the ballot for the 5-year term to which he got reelected. So once again, Bill, congratulations. Then we had the vacancy or for the unexpired 2-year term from Eric Anderson. There was no one that took out papers for that seat, so there was no name on the ballot. So several people got write-in votes. One, if you were to look at the town clerk's website and the official election returns, but
Somebody had like 20, right?
well, actually not for our seat.
Most people have 2 or 3.
A former member, Peter Buckley, got 3 votes. And then about another 15, it looks like, got between one and 2 votes. But then Peter also got votes for both the 5-year term on the redevelopment authority and actually got votes on the 3-year term. They apparently have a 3-year unexpired term on the redevelopment authority as well. So 2 things. My sense is, just based on the number of votes he got, I'm assuming, but I want to confirm this with the town clerk's office, that Peter is probably going to opt for the redevelopment authority position, the 5-year seat on the redevelopment authority, which means we're back to having a vacancy for the 2-year term. Because if you were to remove Peter, there's several people with 2 votes and several people with 1 vote. I forget whether there was it a charter change or what that, and I might be mistaken this with the votes needed to become town meeting member, but I thought they set a minimum number of votes that you need. But in any event, even if they didn't, we got several people that would have been tied at 2. So bottom line, therefore, we don't have a winner. So I spoke to Colleen about this today in anticipation of this meeting tonight, but unfortunately I didn't have a chance to check with the clerk's office. So that's what I'm going to do, check with the clerk's office to confirm that my interpretation hopefully is correct, that we basically still have the vacancy, which means, I believe, that what we need to do is notify the select board of the vacancy, and then there'll be a joint meeting scheduled of the two boards where the 5 members of the select board and the 4 members of our board will meet to vote to appoint a person to the 2-year term. So, for reasons that you mentioned, Donald, and we've all talked about in the past, I think it's important that we have a full board. And so hopefully we can get this done sooner rather than later. It's probably going to have to wait until after town meeting, which begins, the first Monday in May. But once town meeting adjourns, then we could probably ask the select board to put this item on their agenda and get that vacancy filled. So,
is there a way? Is there a way that we can legally reach out to those people who got 1 or 2 votes and just ask them if they're even interested, so that when it comes down to us,
we can reach out to anybody we want to reach out to, Bill, to see if anyone has any interest in that.
The only reason I say that is, I've asked a few people I know if they might be interested, like, no. We can get a lot of that stuff, but you don't know if the guy just said, yeah, write me in, we'll see what happens. Maybe somebody in that group did have some interest.
No, I agree.
Didn't go up and talk.
I agree. And I guess what I would suggest is, that we all take a look at that list. And if any of you know any of those people and you think they would be a good member of the board, to reach out to them. In other words, I don't think it's appropriate that the office do that. But I think any of us individually could certainly do that and see if somebody has, if we had somebody, well, obviously we probably wouldn't be in this situation. If we had somebody that had 10 or 12 votes, then you could say, hey, chances are that person asked their friends and family to write them in,
right?
But that's not the situation. It's all people with either 1 or 2 votes.
Right.
So I don't think we can draw too many conclusions from that, but we can certainly reach out to people, and we can reach out to, again, it doesn't have to be somebody that got a vote. It can be anybody. But your point's well taken. The fact that somebody wrote them in,
maybe showed it.
On the one hand, you can say, did they even know the person was writing them in? Did they write themselves in?
No, I know that there can be a lot of that, but I remember seeing the list. I didn't, matter of fact, what is it again? It's directly on the town clerk's thing.
If you go to the town website, you go to the town clerk's page. On the left-hand side has election. You click on election results.
Yeah.
And then it brings up a bunch of PDF documents, and it has the 2024 final results, because they had draft results initially that didn't have any names on it.
All right, because I think that's what I saw the first time. And then somebody sent me the link to the other one, and I'm like, I didn't see this, so that's why.
Right, because that one took a few days for them to do. George, good evening.
George is here.
George, you're just about ready for me to entertain a motion to adjourn, but what I was just explaining is that we still have a vacancy on the board, but we're going to work towards filling that vacancy. I guess Judge didn't want to hear that. But the other thing that I guess the only other thing that was the only item I had, that I just want to update the board on that. Our next meeting, if my calendar is correct, would be May 21st. Colleen, that's our normal 3rd Tuesday of the month?
That's correct.
Okay. And unless there's anything else, Colleen, I'll follow up with you on that legislative day. Unless there's I just wanted to ask, we have a guest tonight on our meeting. Mr. Azak, I don't know if you are just here from SMAC or if there was something that you were interested in on our agenda, or if you're interested in a seat on the board. Was there anything in particular? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Anything else to George? Did you have anything that you wanted to bring up tonight?
The only thing is we have the mirror on the building. We have the mirror so you can get out of the parking lot.
I saw that the other day when I went by.
Oh,
Now that I knew where to look, as opposed to at the end of Capon Street. So I did see that the other day. So that's good to know. Okay. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Somebody care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Bill. Is there a second?
Second,
Seconded by Donald. I'll take a roll call of the members. Donald,
yes.
Bill,
Yes.
George,
yes.
are you in favor of adjourning? Very good.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 8:12 p.m.